Hey, congratulations. You made it to the end of the Sixer season. Unfortunately, there is no pot of gold at the end of the giant rainbow that was over Citizens Bank Park yesterday. Didn't
Well
you
done.
see that?
Yeah, that was good. I saw it. I saw it in person. It was a double rainbow.
I didn't see the double, but it was so bright and beaming. Like sometimes, the rainbow can be a little faint in areas, but it was very pronounced and a sign of good things to come. A sign of there is some brightness in this Sixer season. You got to look for it though. You got to want to find it. 24
Well,
wins on the
yeah.
season. 24. Probably this is worse than anybody could expect it. In your imagination of this team not performing well, and maybe they become a play-in team or they're like a 7 seed or something like that. You couldn't have imagined this. So what a disaster! But we are here to bring you some optimism, or uh, are we? I mean, now we will just bring you reality. How about that? I'm not going to try to bring the optimism. I'm
Listen,
just going to bring the reality. Here we are, Sixers. They have a
something.
64% chance of keeping their top of 5, 6 pick, depending on where it lands. Draft lottery May 12th, as many people know. Is it fair game to have one of those draft lottery parties like they've had in the past, or should they be embarrassed and hiding here in the? Well, they find ways to kind of squeeze the juice out of the orange. You know what I'm saying? So
No. Because that would result in orange juice, which you desire. And I understand that, yes, that was like the process era. The whole aim was the draft lottery. We're all excited about it. I remember being up in New York the year that they got the number one pick, and the joy. I've never been one time with like at one of the draft lottery parties, and the joy. No, you can't celebrate whatever that was of a season. You can't. No. I know there's a silver lining in the fact that if you keep your pick, it's good. But if you're watching the draft lottery as an organization and you are sponsoring that, and then you get the seventh pick, which you know is not yours, you it's like it's like holding a watch party for the March Madness and your team isn't in. It's the sad, and I've seen that. I've been to one of those at Drexel. It's like saddest, most depressing thing. And no,
oh, that last season with Bruiser Flint when they won like almost 30
they won
games or
like
something.
28 games or something. They had this great resume, and they didn't. I was like, that is the most depressing thing I've ever been to. That would be this. So Sixers, no. Like you can have the draft party when you knew you were going to get the pick, and you hoped it was number one. You don't know. It's a 64% chance, and the odds are very good. And if you're Jim Lynam, he thinks that there's a chance they get the number one pick because there's a 10.5% chance that you can't have a draft lottery party. You can't. If they have it, Noah, what are we doing here, Noah? What are we doing?
Yeah, I think a team sponsored sort of party would not be advisable because that is a crushing outcome. If and there's like a 30% chance of the chances they don't get it, that it's the number 7 pick, which means you were this close, but this close means absolutely nothing. Though Daryl Morey did make sure to note they got back their own second rounder at the trade deadline, which is number 35. But I don't think there's much solace in that if you were so close to getting number 6 and ultimately you get nothing in that first round. But yeah, they are in a position where, because they ended the season with 14 of 15 losses, the odds are legitimately not bad. At one point, it was looking like they would maybe be in that number 7 range, which would have been, I think, a 36% chance. So hey, the odds did improve as the losses piled up at the end of the season, but I'd agree that is certainly nothing that anyone's celebrating right now. And you heard Morey say, personally, the toughest season of his career, which is saying something. He's been doing this a while. Most of his teams have won a bunch of games in the regular season. This year, it is still a little mind-boggling that they went 24-58. I think if you'd said they won twice that many games, many fans would have been like, that's not great. We think this roster is capable of more, and it's a little disappointing to, only be a 6 seed heading into the playoffs or whatever. But instead, we're looking at 24 victories, and we can finally say it is a historic kind of season, right? Like all those starting lineups and just an unbelievable volume of injuries that did lead us to this kind of ridiculous point that we have reached here with the Sixers.
It could be worse. You could be the Phoenix Suns, who of all the NBA teams who are in the lottery, the play-in, or the playoffs, they're the only team in the NBA not involved in anything. They have nothing. They missed the playoffs. They're not in the draft lottery. They're not in the play-in. And they have arguably three better players than the Sixers in their big three with Devin Booker, KD, and Bradley Beal. But
wait. Who's Bradley Beal better than?
I said arguably. I mean, you could make the case that a better version of Bradley Beal, like that last Wizards 30-point per game season, he might have been better than Paul George. Maybe, I don't know. There's an argument that could be made
better than Paul George, but I don't. I mean, okay. Devin Booker didn't have as good a season as Tyler Hero this year.
It sounds like you would rather be the Sixers than the Phoenix Suns then. So
yeah.
It could be worse. That was my point. So yeah. They fired their coach, Mike Malone. They fired Mike Budenholzer. Mike Malone also available from the Denver Nuggets. But
I mean, yeah, Mike Malone's phone is. I mean, people that have coaches that never even thought about firing their coaches are making the call just to see. There's probably like 4 coaches that are safe right now. I think every owner is thinking about, well.
But look at the Phoenix Suns. They get rid of Monty Williams. They had Frank Vogel, right?
Yeah, it's almost like the players.
Well, they get the new owner, Ishbia. I don't know. Is he the part of the problem? Like he was the one that kind of forced the KD trade and
you're gonna have another one. KD's gonna be gone. He won't be a Sun next year. Pretty obvious.
Yeah. And there's no way he can get coaxed into coming to Philly because why would anybody want Paul George? Maybe there's a 3-team multiple way where the Sixers get off of some of their bad assets some way, somehow. But that's all hopeful thinking, wishful thinking.
Yes. Very big wishful thinking.
Big wishful thinking. And I'm curious, is there anyone who kind of won you over? Any player that you're kind of a sweetheart on that you're hoping that they like, not necessarily, Gershon or Quentin Grimes necessarily. Those are kind of like the big guys. Did Lonnie Walker win you over?
Oh, yeah.
Did Jordan Hood Shafino make you want to see more?
Jalen, get his name right.
Jalen Hood Shafino make you want to?
He didn't make a lasting impression on you, Dan? What about? So we play Immaculate Grid here quite a bit, and this Sixers are going to have a lot of guys that you can play either Sporkle or Immaculate Grid with. Shawnee asked me the other day, and he's like, what happened to that guy with the YMCA game? And I was like, you got to be more specific there, guy. Alex. I said, do you mean Alex Reese? And he goes, no. Roddy. And I was like, oh my God. I completely forgot about David Roddy being on this team. I completely forgot about him. Blanked out. Shuma Okeke. That's another guy that in 5 years, we're going to be like, he was a Sixer. So everybody get ready. This is absolutely Immaculate Grid Sporkle answer time. But to your question, Lonnie Walker, here's a guy that I knew a little bit about coming from, Reading. I remember talking to Danielle Marshall about him randomly. I ran into Danielle Marshall at the Greensboro Airport of all places. Danielle was coaching.
That is funny.
It was really random.
I didn't hear the story. I'm so interested right now.
Do you not know? Oh, sorry. I've never told the story.
You bumped into Danielle Marshall at the Greensboro Airport.
Danielle, so for those who don't know, Danielle used to be one of our analysts on pre and post game. And Danielle held for a long time the record for most threes in a game. He's from the Reading area. He was Mr. Basketball in Pennsylvania. He's the first UConn player to really be legitimately good before UConn blew up in it, to the national champ contender that they were. So he was before Ray Allen and all those guys. He was a really, really good player. And I didn't know of him and that ilk until I moved here. So anyway, we're friendly-ish from working together. And then we've stayed in touch since then. So we're friends, to a guy.
Well, imagine his 6'9" frame is sticking out.
So we're at Greensboro Airport is not very big, needless to say. So I look down and we're coming down this escalator area. And I look over and I'm like, gosh, that looks like Danielle. It's first when I was with the boys and Sean, and I was like, we all thought that looked like a team because they're all wearing similar jersey or warm-ups or whatever. And then we look over, and I was like, gosh, that kind of looks like Donyell Marshall. Why would Donyell Marshall be in the Greensboro airport? But he was coaching with the G League, and I think Greensboro has a team, or I think that he was coaching with the Greensboro team. Whatever, doesn't matter. So we go up. This is several years ago, and he was just like, "Hey, there's a guy that is at Miami that like is going to be a star. That broke one of my high school record." And I was like, who in the world? And he was talking about Lonnie Walker, who had just been recruited to sign with Miami. And I think Adam Fisher was his recruiter at Miami when Larry Nagel was the coach, I think. So anyway, so Donyell tells me about him. So
Temple head coach Adam Fisher.
Yes, Temple head coach Adam Fisher was an assistant of Larry Nagel. And I believe he was the one that recruited. He recruited a couple of guys down there from the Philadelphia area. But anyway, so Lonnie Walker's the one Donyell Marshall's the first one to tell me about Lonnie Walker to the extent of like, I think this guy's going to be really good. He's got the NBA body. He's got a good, motor, good engine. He needs to work on his shot, but like he broke all my records at Reading High School. And I was like, oh, I didn't even know he's from Reading. So when I got to know Lonnie Walker a little bit here, talking to him at different times, I talked to him more of an extended time at the Sixers Gala. Really quiet, very unassuming guy. But I liked his game, and I thought if he got a 3-point shot, here's a guy that you could see, really turning it around. So I really, I texted Donyell actually, it was a couple weeks ago. I'm just saying like, hey, Lonnie Walker's on the team, looks like he's doing well. I hope that he's going to make it. And Donyell's got back to me right away, or whatever, not right away, but like, got back to me later. It was just talking about, his family and like his, faith and what a good kid he is and everything like that. And it was just really, that's a guy that I hope makes it. It's hard not to cheer for him when you listen to him talk just about how much it means to him and how he struggled and didn't think he's going to make it back in the NBA after being cut at the beginning of the season and playing in Lithuania. I mean, I think that's a really feel good story. And, anytime you can talk to Donyell is a good time.
He picked up some, Lonnie Walker, some skills in the time from being here as a 76er and leaving the NBA that I didn't know he had, especially that step back and his confidence in it and the way he utilizes some of his dribble moves and things like that. And you mentioned Reading High School. I just want to say that school is so much bigger than I expected it was.
It's one of the biggest schools. No. It's a massive high school.
Julius played against some kids that went there. I looked up the enrollments. There are almost 5,000 kids there.
It's like Easton area high schools, like massive like that. But Reading is just because there's only high school. So that's why I had Donyell, like, what's the other high school? And he goes, what other high school? And I was like, oh, just the one. Just for
right. But Lonnie Walker, do you feel like he showed off enough skills that his asking price might be a little too high for the Sixers?
I don't think it is.
Okay.
Well, it could be too high for the Sixers. The Sixers, we calculated it out. They're already over the cap. They're already over the cap with Eric Gordon and Andre Drummond coming back. Like Jim and I are looking at the numbers, and I was like,
"Oh, what are the player options?"
They're player options. They're going to take them. So the Sixers have to get creative that front. I don't know if they try to offer him something like you opt out and then we rework a deal, because right now it's like their cap number is like 110% or 109, whatever it is. They're already over by a good margin. So,
well, that's the thing for me, Noah, is you got Daryl Morey at the press conference talking about we need to get younger, more athletic, longer, but how is he reconfiguring this with the players that are currently on the roster? Like, how does that even translate to the amount of cap space they have, the players who are signed and probably going to re-sign? Did that feel like that was a less attainable goal than the way he made it seem?
Well, any team can sign players to minimum contracts. And I mean, I think the gist of it is this past offseason, they decided to use minimums on Reggie Jackson and Kyle Lowry and players in their 30s.
Eric Gordon.
This year, Eric Gordon this year, it'll be a different plan. So I agree. I think Lonnie Walker IV was pretty impressive, especially after the concussion. I mean, that was really jarring for him, the first of his career. Just disappointing to him personally. He felt like he was getting into a groove, but he played better after the concussion, honestly. I think he tied his career high in the finale with 31 points. And I think one of the knocks on him generally had been kind of consistency and being a little erratic with the scoring and being really reliant on the scoring. But the last 5-6 games of the season, for the most part, you knew what you were going to get, and it was pretty good. He was making smart decisions. He doesn't turn the ball over a lot, and
3-point shot.
the shooting was decent. And he looked, I think, pretty good, running the offense at times, being real NBA quality combo guard there over the final stretch. So absolutely, I think when Morey talks about some sort of grand vision for the team looking dramatically different, if we're looking at free agency, that again, it cannot mean high-priced role players, right? It has to mean players like Kelly Oubre and Gershon Yabusele, where they make savvy moves for minimum salary ultimately. And absolutely, I could see Lonnie Walker IV being one of those guys who does stick around, but for not, a very high price. And yeah, I think creativity will again be required around the margins. Just intelligence about where you are using those minimum contract slots. But you're right, like they've got a few of these veterans who it's not the Sixers' call whether they stay in Philadelphia, such as Eric Gordon, Andre Drummond. And Drummond was pretty clear, like he wants to be back here. Other guys were a little more, we'll wait and see, but Andre Drummond would like to remain in Philadelphia is at least how he saw things in the wake of this season.
Funny side note, when Andre Drummond sees David Aldridge in the group of reporters, and he's like, DA, I play you on a video game every day. What's going on there? He told him young man. He called him like young man. Something like that. But yeah, DA, NBA Hall of Famer. All right. Or basketball Hall of Famer. Didn't he get in?
Yeah. I would say it was a surreal, I guess, moment because it was the final game of the season, very meaningless, I think, by any definition. And of course, a bunch of press conferences that day, both before and after the game. So some reporters quite reasonably during the game were, transcribing back in the media room or whatever. I was going to be there regardless, but I also was the Bull reporter for the final game. So it was certainly my responsibility to actually be watching the game on press row. And at one point it was just myself and David Aldridge on our row, on media row, and the rest of it was entirely empty. So that felt kind of fitting to end the Sixers season with not exactly great.
You're the only one watching.
Tim Bontemps? You didn't have Tim Bontemps wasn't there?
He was there, but I assume he was doing some work on, the pregame media availabilities with Paul George and the guys who spoke pregame. So I wanted to see it through to the end, and it was my responsibility to do so as the Bull reporter. So got to see the final action of the season, and David Aldridge was there as well for the last action of the NBA year in Philly.
Really funny how the crowd transitioned to a lot of families toward the end of the season because the Sixers were like such a great ticket to get. So it's like bring the nephews, the nieces, everybody out. If you've never been to a game, come have the basketball experience. So there was some things for people to grasp onto there at the end. I feel like Lonnie Walker is a pretty good consolation prize for the Sixers if they cannot bring Quentin Grimes back. And I feel like Quentin Grimes has a lot of upside, and obviously you see the numbers, over 20 points a game since he got here in February, the defense and all of that. But I just don't know if the asking price will be what suits the Sixers situation. Yes, I heard Daryl Morey and Nick Nurse talk about bringing him back and how he fits in with the team. But I feel like if Lonnie Walker's asking price is going to be more toward a vet minimum type, kind of a prove it deal, I don't think that Yabusele and Grimes both can return under the current salary cap. But I'm open to hearing what you guys think, but is that something you feel like will be something the Sixers will be able to pull off?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have three guys basically. And the thing is, the timing wise, you have to make some of these decisions before you go into the draft. So the draft lottery is May 12th. The draft is at the end of June, and then free agency starts at the very end of June, right? So you have to make those decisions, because if you're bringing back 2 wings, then that changes your draft philosophy. I would think the draft philosophy is best player of need for you.
Well, that's not what Daryl Morey said.
That's nonsense. It's incorrect.
He said the best player.
When you get the number 1 pick, but like
That really surprised me that he said it that way. He was so definitive about it. But
if you get the number 1 pick, it's Cooper Flag. You call it a day. That's fine. But if you get the number 2, 3, 4, some of those decisions might be made for you in the regard of who's left. But why would you have Dylan Harper if you're also going to re-sign Quentin Grimes?
Right. Ace Bailey might be more of a longer wing, a bigger wing. Is that what you're saying? Like Ace Bailey?
Yes, it's a similar skill set. It's a similar guy who is not as proven. And you need to win that draft. I will say to Sixers, the last 2 drafts, excellent. There's no doubt about it. I think they've done well in the draft recently. But I don't think that, Kelly Oubre and Gershon Yabusele and Quentin Grimes are not coming back. For me, the priority number 1 is Quentin Grimes. I think he acquitted himself excellent. And I think people that say it's going to be on a losing team didn't see him go toe-to-toe with Anthony Edwards. That's a very big game for me. I thought that it was a Timberwolves team that was playing with their full complement, and I thought he did very well. Did he have some blips? Yeah, but he had a rock-solid year when asked to fulfill that role. Then you have to try to extrapolate it. What role will he have when Tyrese Maxey's playing full-time? What role will he have in a full, 4 other stars?
Are you asking us or George Niang? Because he already knows what Quentin Grimes is doing.
George Niang, this is amazing. But yeah, so it's like he won't. And the thing is, George Niang is right. But the fact that he needed to tell like Quentin Grimes, and Quentin Grimes probably looked at him like, duh. Like I still know that. I'm trying to get mine, guy, while you're over there miring away on this team after being traded away from Cleveland. So yeah, Quentin Grimes held his tongue because he's a better person than me. But I would have looked at him like, yeah, of course I'm a role player. I'm glad to be here. Thanks a lot. But yeah, so it's just about those questions about.
So what you were saying was you feel like
I think you only get maybe one of them, and I think they like
Oubre, Yabusele, and Grimes.
And I think to me it would be as much as I asked Ala this and I asked Mark this, and they both went with Oubre. I think the Grimes would be my guy. Personally, I think this
great question.
He's a 3-level scorer, and he plays great defense. And I know Oubre is a great shooter and a great scorer, not a great shooter. So if I had to choose just one of those 3, I went with Grimes. That's my opinion. It's what I'm here for.
Yeah, I mean, Oubre is another one of these guys with the player option. It's a little over $8 million, and that'll be interesting. I mean, he again was very positive about Philly and getting comfortable here in his second year. I know he's in my kind of perspective been a pretty good coworker with Nick Nurse. He's a guy that talks highly about Nurse and their relationship. But Oubre, we also know, is a guy who really believes in himself, and wouldn't surprise me if he's inclined to sort of gauge what the market is, consider other options, see whether there's another spot that could be more to his liking, that could pay him a little more money, et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah, I'm not sure that that's necessarily a lock that he'll return to Philly. And I'd agree, he's an important free agent. Obviously, he's been a starter for this team when healthy. And there are pros and cons with the fit. The biggest con being the subpar jump shooting. Again, a little under 30% this year. It was interesting at his exit interview. He said his finger is still a bit of an issue. He said dating back to Charlotte, his hands has not been quite right. He said he's going to see a hand therapist or a hand specialist this summer and is hopeful about that. But yeah, yet again, another little tidbit of health information on this.
His reaction.
Even when the season is over. But obviously, yeah, he's never really been a standout shooter in the NBA, and that tends to not be ideal next to Tyrese Maxey, Joel Embiid, etc. I'd agree. Like Quentin Grimes, how could you not want him on your team? I think too, the fact that he's like a really high effort defensive player is such a bonus here, especially as the Sixers, hope that Tyrese Maxey keeps getting better and better on that end. I think the notion of him and Maxey spending a lot of minutes together and that going well on both ends of the floor sounds very viable to me. And then obviously you got Jared McKay in this mix as well. So yeah, I would not consider Lonnie Walker part of this conversation. Like, with all due respect to Walker, I think he's probably, again, a minimum salary guy, and certainly one that very well could make sense here. Quentin Grimes is going to make much more than that in restricted free agency, and it will ultimately be the Sixers' decision whether they back up those words and, pay him whatever it is necessary to retain him as an RFA. And then, Yabusele, unrestricted free agent. And, you don't want to read a ton into the post game or comments after the season just ended or whatever. But I thought it was a little interesting that he said playing time matters to me.
Yeah.
And certainly indicated that it's not just a lock that I love my time in Philly and I'm going to come back. He sounds very much inclined to fully explore what's out there, which is very much his right. And I know he's grateful for his time in Philly. I think he loved getting to play a lot, having the fan base embrace him, enjoyed, being
on the Eagles games. Yeah.
Yeah, no, he had a great first season on all fronts, I think. But with Yabusele,
For him.
yeah, is it going to be a mid-level sort of salary? What is the market going to be? And then what are the other teams interested in going to be in terms of what they can offer him for his role on the team? And, are they contenders? And, I think there's a bunch of variables with him that will ultimately play a role in whether he comes back here or not. But yes, circling back, I think Quentin Grimes more and more just looks like a guy that would be a fantastic long-term piece in Philly. And hey, you talk about the youth. Quentin Grimes is 24, so that is something the Sixers could hang their hat on and tout as a success if he is a major piece of their offseason.
I think Gershon goes out west. I think a West team picks him up.
That's the convoluted thing about it. He's restricted with Grimes, player option for Kelly Oubre. I can see the Sixers whiteboard right now. They got a lot to figure out.
Their front office has their work cut out for them because, just the way that the numbers are going to flesh out as far as salary numbers on your actual roster numbers, and then obviously how they have to have all these moving puzzle pieces. And they have to make a lot of these decisions before they go into the draft because it affects your draft decision. I know Daryl Morey, best player available, but you need to know. You need to know
best player available.
What you got. You need to know what you got.
Yeah,
I don't know. I mean, to me, that would seem like most dubious if they're considering, do we take a center? Like do we take Malawak at number 5 or 6 when you have Joel Embiid on your team? I find it really hard to believe that the roster of the team wouldn't be under consideration. But I think I do generally believe Daryl Morey there. I think he's historically been really steadfast about that and has some track record to back it up. And we even saw in the past draft, albeit at a higher pick with Jared McKay, and there really wasn't any thought about, hey, we have Tyrese Maxey on our team. Do we have to worry about that? They were just like, no, Jared McKay's the best player. We're going to take him. And I think that's correct. I don't think you want to be looking back in 10, 15 years and saying, man, that was foolish of us, not to take the best player just because he happens to be a certain position. I think teams that do that tend to regret it. So I think it can never be like a 100% to 0 sort of outlook, but I think especially at the top of the draft, that seems like a logical approach to me. And I think I buy Daryl Morey there. I think some of the public comments you can take with a grain of salt, but that one to me seemed genuine as far as how he's looking at the draft.
May 12th.
May 12th is the day. This thing is running away from us. We are 30 minutes into the podcast, have not showed any love to Wilmington University. Let's show our title sponsor all the adoration they deserve. Advance your career with a graduate degree from Wilmington University at WilMU. Your dream is our mission. Get to know us at wilmu.edu. Back here on the Sixers Talk podcast, we have a couple of other guys that are worth mentioning for sure. So Oubre, Quentin Grimes, Maxie McCain, Lonnie Walker, possibly. Where does Justin Edwards and maybe Jared Butler fit in that equation for you guys?
You're running out of space.
I feel you. I feel it from the last day than anybody.
Eric-
Off season.
Eric Gordon, I don't know. Eric Gordon.
Justin Edwards is a lock that he'll be back.
Right. He's signed. He's under contract. I mean, more so playing time, fit. We've seen him start. We've seen him come off the bench.
The bench guy.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's a very good.
It's a rotation piece.
Yeah, a good rotation piece. I think that the book on him coming out of high school was this high level scorer, a decent defender, with a good 3-point shot. He goes to his 1 year Kentucky, and none of that equates. He had like maybe 3 games where he saw those flashes, but he has an NBA body. He has an NBA game, and you saw it. He unfortunately had that ankle issue, which I think kind of hampered him a bit at times this year. But there is no doubt when they converted his contract, they had him under contract. So he's already accounted for. But I do think he's a very nice player off the bench. He's a guy that is shown that he's a very good 3-point shooter, that he's an adequate defender. I think at times he was tasked with guarding some of the better shooters out there, and I thought he did a good job. So I really liked his game. I like that he knows what he needs to do. He's a very quiet guy. Very unassuming, but I think his game it fits in very well with what the Sixers need. They need a 3-and-D guy, and he can do that.
Yeah, if Daryl Morey's trying to get longer, more athletic,
and young,
younger, I mean, he checks all those boxes. Noah, Jared Butler brings a skill set that nobody on this team has. He is a traditional point guard.
I just don't know how he fits. I like
he is right. That's what I'm saying. He's a pass first guy. He's trying to get everybody involved. They don't have anybody like that on the team who's not hunting their own shot or trying to get to the cup. He can do those things, but he is very much more traditional in his approach to how the ball should be distributed. Do they have room for someone like that here?
I think in all likelihood too. I think worth keeping in mind that they dealt for him at the deadline. They like him, and I think he did pretty well overall. One of the funnier moments to me of the final day pressers. Our friend Kai Carlin at Sixers Wire asked him just about reflections on his season generally, and he said, "I think I'd give myself an A-, B+." Then there was a long pause. He said, "You want me to elaborate on that?" But I think that was a reasonable grade for himself. Seemed to get more and more comfortable with Nick Nurse's system, and I think led the team well in a really difficult spot where there were pieces circling in and out of that lineup. Played with a lot of poise and steadiness. And I think had some nice games where you saw when he's aggressive, he can put that thing in the hole. The shot, the Sixers continue to believe in it. Nick Nurse, Daryl Morey, they think he's a good shooter. Butler thinks the same. He believes his NBA percentages don't quite reflect how good he is from long range. Obviously, it's an important part of his game that he continue to get better there. But yeah, for me, I think he would make sense here moving forward. You think about someone like Jeff Doughton Jr., who started the season as the team's 3rd point guard and kind of, maybe the 13th man, 12th man in the rotation. I think Jared Butler would make a ton of sense in a similar spot. And to me, clearly has more upside than Doughton. He's a couple of years younger. I think he's currently a better player and someone with potential, I think, to be a higher level guy than a 12th, 13th man on a roster. Obviously, I think it's shocking if in a year or 2 from now, Jared Butler is a solid backup point guard in the NBA. And I think the Sixers will obviously be interested in him. I'm not too sure how they kind of see the whole fit with him moving forward, but I think just the basic fact that they got him at the deadline and that he did good work once they acquired him would suggest that he's very much on the radar and could be part of the guard mix. Perhaps not a surefire rotation guy, but at least someone very much in that conversation. And as he said, reliable for being a true point guard, which is not the most common these days in the NBA.
Yeah, he's the kind of guy that if his number was called, I would expect him to take care of the basketball, not turn it over, get other people involved, and bring that hard-nosed nature to, playing the position. And so I feel like I would have a lot of confidence if he was the pop. He's one of those guys who'd be like, oh, why doesn't he play more type of thing? Because when you see him out there distributing and getting involved and being rock solid. I mean, listen, Amy hit the nail on the head when she said that some of these decisions and how they decide who stays and who goes or who they want to pursue are contingent on how things shake out with the draft lottery and what free agency, that little time frame of between now and, maybe June 1st or what have you, where they try to position themselves to stack the roster, decide who they won't keep, who's leaving, who's going to try to pursue the open market, what contracts they match and all the above. So it is definitely interesting to hear Daryl Morey endorse himself and Nick Nurse that they're both coming back, because you need a group approach to figuring out all these ins and outs of the Sixers roster. Will be interesting to see how it plays out. Any final thoughts before we get out of here, guys?
I'm excited. I'm excited to start reading Noah's draft breakdowns. I've already started to look at some of the players. I don't have real high opinions of some of the guys that are at the top, not named Cooper Flag, so I have to look a little bit deeper. So I'm excited to see what Noah has on Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper and some of the other guys. So I'm excited. Now we're turning the page. We're turning the page. That was the most forgettable season I've ever been a part of at any level of any sport. 24 wins. For people that say, you said this at the beginning, for people that say, like, I thought it was going to be bad, there's no one in the history of the world thought it was going to be this bad. Ever. You didn't. You couldn't have said it.
Oh, Evan Turner. Evan Turner thought that it would be bad.
Mm.
He was on the record.
Yeah, that one, right. Yeah. I mean, I guess
with 24 wins.
Well, he just said that Paul George and Joel Embiid would be like cake batter, soft. It would be very.
All right.
What?
Yeah, I mean, it stood out to me that you had a bunch of guys saying can't go any lower from here. It can only go up from here.
Yeah.
And
wait, what did Kyle Lowry say? How will you remember the season?
I won't.
I will.
Yeah, that was fantastic.
Fine.
But like I was hearing that and I was thinking, sure, like all logic supports what you're saying, but also you just experienced this basketball season. So I just don't think that can ever be fundamentally true. It could always get worse from here. But yes, like in all likelihood, the Sixers will improve, right? Like, and they have avenues to do that this offseason. It would be a big one if they get a top 6 pick. But this season certainly showed all of us that you can't really do anything other than pencil in your expectations. Nothing is a sure thing in life and sports. And the 24-25 Sixers certainly demonstrated that. And we're certainly a team that, none of us will spend a lot of time remembering very fondly.
Unless we want to talk about David Roddy or Alex Reese or Jalen Houston.
It's a good team for remembering some guys already. Like it really is. And like even to throw another name in the mix, Marcus Bagley was like quite good on the second day of his second 10-day contract. So there were several players who they probably won't be Sixers next season. Shout out to them for like giving themselves a real chance in this league or boosting their stock, looking good to other teams. Okeke was one of them, signed with the Cavs. I think O'Shea Brissett was pretty good during his little run here. So kind of
Isaiah Mobley is wondering why his name is not mentioned. He wants his name.
Maybe it was a one game. We got to talk about that. We're just real quick. So they didn't time Colin Castleton 10-day correctly. So it expired at midnight before the last game. And so we figured that out. Kate Scott texted me. She's like, I don't think Castleton's on this roster anymore. It's 10-day expired at midnight. I was like, I mean midnight tomorrow because they only have one more game. She goes, no, I think right now in like an hour. I'm like, what? So then we get the email, like Isaiah Mobley, who was Evan Mobley's brother. So I was like, this is so Philadelphia. We get the younger brothers of the stars. But I think like Marcus Bagley is a good player, but Marvin obviously being a lottery pick. And then his little brother comes here. Isaiah Mobley shows up for one game, the last game where the Bulls couldn't have been more disinterested in playing that game than the Sixers. It was amazing. It's just amazing that he.
And how do you have one team with two of the fourths, Lonnie Walker and Ricky Council.
When you have 30 different players played for your team, 30. Keep in mind, this is not the NFL. So 30 is a high number when only like 5 people are allowed on the court. 54 different lineups and 30 different players in one NBA season. So I'm sure you had guys with
leads you in games played.
Birthday. Wasn't that a work? No, but I think it's like 1 in.
Oh, just coincidence.
Give like 1 in 28 people. You're gonna have a similar, or 2 in 28 people. I think is the numbers bear it out. So I'm sure there was probably some birthdays that cross-referenced.
I was just saying, Ricky Council leads the team in games played.
And that lets you everything. That's everything you need.
That's where we ended.
5 seasons. Ricky Council.
Indicative of where we were this year. And
how many minutes, Danny? How many minutes in those 71 games, whatever it was?
Oh, I'm sure it was like 7. Yeah, 7. Like he was in the doghouse half the year. Did you
see him play? You saw him play.
Did. I also heard you trying to get him in that dunk contest. Trying to get him in there.
I like watching Ricky Council do, and it's dunk. And there's one thing he does well, and that's dunk. Everything else, it's questionable at best.
Tough, man. He kind of took.
Wait. Who was the guy that played with Alex Reese that played at Alabama? Noah. Mm-hmm. I watched Alabama. I don't remember that guy at all. You remember him?
Not too clearly. No, I mean, he, to his credit, like, is one of these rare guys who actually became better after college. Like, I don't think the college production was that big. But again, shout out to Alex Reese. He's a guy kind of on the NBA fringes now, and yeah, I would be surprised to see him remain a Sixer, but he's in the league and trying to stick there.
Some reason he reminds me of your boy Amy Scal Labissiere a little bit. Look at he lost his smile. I'm just saying, it's just same it's like some just tall dude who just did it.
You're trying to end it on a high note with confidence and fun, and you bring up one of the worst names. I don't even like.
Much love to everybody out there. We have endured this season with you. It has been.
What does it gets better? As time said, there's only one way to go, and it's up. The thing you could still go sideways and maybe dip down, but I'm going to say with the positive, we're just going up.
All right, we'll leave it there. Check out Noah Levick's work on NBC Sports Philadelphia.com, and Amy and I will be around, of course, on various shows and programs on our network. Much love to everybody out there. Thank you for tuning in and checking us out. For our producer, Ben Berry, Noah Levick keeping us on the level, Amy Fadool. I'm Danny Pommells. Thanks for listening and watching the Sixers Talk podcast brought to you by Wilmington University. We'll see you next time.